your shoes. I'm your host, Jose Cabrera, and today we also have my lovely wife, Amanda, on camera. The reason I started this podcast is to help those that have fallen by the wayside, those that have fell off the wagon, so to speak, just as I had, and they're searching their way back to Christ. Thanks for joining. Let's navigate this soulful journey where we face life's challenges together, anchored in faith. Let's dive right into it. But first off, I want to go back to episode 2 and just clear the air. I had a couple people ask me if it was just recent, my addictions, and if I had just left the gang and everything that we spoke on episode 2. The answer is no. I haven't been an addict. I haven't been in gangs. I haven't been doing those things for about 14 to 15 years, I'm going to say. Although I would drink socially, I would have a few edibles here and there, but nothing to the extreme as it was many years ago. I thought I'd just clear the air on that. I thought I had some people look at me funny, but I don't know.
I think you make up stories.
How all of a sudden I just dropped that, but no, it's been many years. But the thought of my sins, my past, and my actions was something that in my head was unforgivable. That it's not something that I could be easily forgiven for. That God wouldn't forgive me for all those years of just everything that I put myself through and everything that I went through, all the sin and lifestyle that wasn't pleasing to Him. So I want to say today that if I can be forgiven, so can you. I just wanted to clear the air on that part. I didn't just get off the bottle 2 days prior to that episode. But yeah, the real reason for this episode though is I wanted you guys to know, and the reason that I wanted to put Amanda on camera, even though she's not a fan, is I want you to get to know Amanda, my wife, my better half, and a few of you have asked about her story. You're intrigued by just her life, how we came to be, and
I'm cloaked in mystery.
And in between. So I thought this was a good chance to do that because it's early on in the podcast, the episodes, and you guys wanted to just, have a feel for her, and I want you to let you know about her, but in her words. So instead of it coming through me, which is probably more accurate than no.
Definitely not.
So I wrote down a few questions for Amanda just so I could pinpoint on some of the stuff that got asked and whatnot. And so the first one was, just tell us a little bit about your upbringing. Did you go to church when you were growing up? Did you have some sort of belief in God before you came to church?
We always had God in our lives. We always had faith to some degree in our lives. But it wasn't religious. It wasn't like we went every Sunday. We did these things. Like, we always had prayer in our home. My dad was a part of prayer circles when we were growing up. We went to Bible camp in the summer, both my sister and I, when we were younger. Through, I think it was called InterVarsity Christian Fellowship.
Oh, okay.
Was the organization. Because friends of my dad's had been involved in that their whole lives. So that's how my dad found out about it. And a lot of my dad's friends were camp counselors or, did the riding program there, the horsemanship programs and things like that. So that's how we got introduced to that. And we had an absolute blast at summer camp. So that's why when some of the songs are sung, I know the words, and you're like, how do you know this?
Yeah.
That's how I know that.
Yeah, I know. And then one thing that I can say is what surprised me when I first started when we first started dating, and one of the first times that you took me to your dad's, to your parents for supper was when it was time for dinner. Your dad asked me to take my hat off, and I thought that was so strange because not everyone has that. And then also, they say grace before eating, and that was pretty different to me too, because I thought, to me, it was just how I grew up, and not people really that didn't go to church or didn't have. But yeah, I thought that was pretty awesome. Not the hat taken off because I didn't want to show my golden locks.
Luscious locks.
But yeah, so here's the next one, because since you didn't grow up in Pentecost, you didn't grow up in going to church, what was it like the first time you walked into a Pentecostal church or were invited to the Pentecostal revival service? Or
it was scary. It was scary and uncomfortable. It is probably the most uncomfortable I have ever been in my life, was in that situation.
Can you explain as to why?
It felt like I had horns growing out of my head and that everybody had to stare at them. Like if those church pews could have creaked every time somebody turned their head to stare at me, that's all you would have heard the entire service. I was an outsider. It was very clear that I was an outsider. And that's how I was made to feel. It was a very exclusive feeling there. People were kind. People would, hello. But that was it.
Yeah. Nobody
wanted to talk to you. Nobody wanted to know your name. Nobody wanted to know your story. It was very shallow. And a lot of those people are still there today. But I think that's just how it was then. It was a lot more exclusive than it is today.
Okay. And so the first time you went was not.
No, there was a speaker. I don't know what you would call him.
A revival evangelist is
okay, he was terrifying. Yeah. He got onto the pulpit and yelled for the entire time he was up there, from the entire time, about being backsliders. Yeah. I had no idea. That was my first time ever hearing the term backslider, was that day.
Yeah.
And that man got up on that pulpit and screamed and waved his hands and was going like this the whole time about how we were all backsliders and we were all going to hell. And it wasn't until afterwards when I found out what a backslider was, and I was like, hey, you just yelled at me for an hour about being a backslider. I never went to church.
Yeah, I think the reason that those revival services, most of the time, it's people that have gone to church.
And not for visitors, not recommended.
A lot of people that have gone to church, that have backslidden, right, that have God, that have left Christ, and then so what I found sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes that's who they target. And so I can see where it was scary for you. I can see where it wasn't appealing to you.
I can appreciate that. Maybe that message did need to reach some people that were in that congregation that day. However, I don't believe it needed to be screamed at for an hour.
Yeah, no, I understand that part. But so my next question is how is where you attend now, where we go now, is it what would you say to those listening and those watching of that you're not going to feel that way?
No, you're not. A lot has changed, and I think with the way that the church itself and the people that are there now seem to want to have more people. They want the congregation to grow. They want more people to feel comfortable there. They want more people to start hearing the messages and listening to the Bible. They want people to understand it.
Understand God.
And it's not just it's not just that. That's not where it ends. That's just
No.
the beginning, right?
Yeah.
They want people to
They want
fellowship.
I
They
think-
want you to know each other. They
Yeah.
want you to be a part of each other's lives. And I mean, if I think back to the last few services that they've talked very much about the aspect that we're as human beings, we're meant to coexist with each other. We're meant to be a part of each other's lives. When we struggle together. When we have joy and victory, we have it together. We're not on this road totally alone. And the whole congregation seems to now have really embodied that spirit, and they're interested in you. They want to share in those joys and those struggles with you.
Yeah. Just going back, just to touch on, I think you said that they want the congregation to grow. Yes, that's important, but at the same time, I think one of the things Pastor Walker said is it also he wants the congregation to grow, but at the same time, he wants also people that are hungry and thirsty for God, hungry for change, right? And so I just thought I'd throw that in there.
And I agree with that, but I think first and foremost, if you're not comfortable going somewhere, your congregation doesn't grow. If you can't make it a place where people can relate to your message, and you can't make it a place where people are comfortable to be human and to have sinned and to continue to sin and to be willing and open to learn from what you're saying and what the Bible is saying, if you can't establish those roots, your congregation is never going to grow because people aren't comfortable there. So it first has to be a place where people know that they're going to be held safely. Mm-hmm. And it feels that way now.
Mm-hmm. It's like you don't walk into a room and just get smacked in the face.
Well,
you
and feel like you have this big light on your head that says sinner.
And then you get brought in, and you get the joy, the people come and talk to you. People say, "Hey, welcome," and then you get smacked in the face with the Bible. No, I'm kidding. It's not like that at all. It's not like that at all. But it's we enjoy going. We really enjoy going, and we're gonna switch gears here though, just for a brief minute from that, because a couple of the nosy ones, you know who you are. No. A couple of you were just asking how we met, how it came to be that we're together. So I know my version, but we're gonna let him have
hopefully mine's the same.
Yours.
Well, we met through my ex, who was your friend. You went to high school with them. And you, at the time, were living in New York, and had planned to come back and visit. So you had reached out to him, and so we met through him. You and him, when you were here, had gotten together a few times. We'd gone for dinner. We'd hung out together, done that kind of thing. And then you went back to New York after that trip. And it had been probably another 3 or 4 years after that until you moved back to Calgary.
I hadn't talked to you. Well, I had never talked to you after.
No, you didn't talk to me after.
I still talked
you kept
to
in contact
Jonesy,
with him, yeah.
But it was more like, hey, how's it going, and just blah blah blah. But never talked to you during that time, and
until that fateful day when you came back and I saw you standing so forlorn at the bus stop.
Forlorn, I was like a peacock waiting for my blue limo.
Yeah, that's what it was. And you just couldn't resist my 1984 Dodge Omni with the AM radio.
You're the one that stopped, and I was surprised because the car stopped, and then you didn't have power windows.
So I had to roll it down.
You leaned over and cranked her down, and hey! And I'm like, oh, hi!
And then my roommate at the time and we always used to go for ice cream on Sundays. So you started coming for ice cream with us.
I got invited to ice cream, and that's how she lured me in with ice cream.
He never says no to ice cream.
Of ladies. Wow. But so that's how we met, and then that was, I believe, in 2008. And you know what? a lot of there's been comments that, oh, you guys are a power couple. You guys are just, it's like you guys don't fight. You know what? It's not always been like that.
Oh, we've had knockdown during mouth fights.
Absolutely. Because the thing with relationships is, and I'm not here to give you relationship advice, but what's worked for us is, before we knock heads and clash heads, and I'd go this way and she'd go this way and be upset and be angry and stay like that, and okay, then I'm leaving and all this stuff, right? And then at the same time, as humans, you have to work together if you want to make something work. And so over the years, and it was many years, I believe, and even I think when Eddie came to be is when we finally realized, and I'm not going to say it was me because most of the time it's Amanda with the good ideas, but we came to realize that, you know what, compromise is important. When you don't agree on something, and instead of just clashing heads, instead of just being angry and being upset and making each other miserable, making the kid miserable, it's just better to compromise and come to an agreement that will work. That's what's worked for us for all these years, and yeah, it's just the little things. Valentine's Day just happened, but Valentine's Day to me is, I try to make it Valentine's Day every day, if not every day, at least every week for Amanda. It's not buying her stuff, although I do here and there, and it's not just taking her out for dinner all the time, but it's the little things, right? It's the I love you in the morning. It's the I love you during, if I know she's having a hard day or a tough day, checking up on her. It's the helping her, even though I'm horrible at cooking, trying to help her in the kitchen, right? It's just the little things like that, and vice versa. She always just sends me messages here and there, and I think that's what's worked for us. You start with compromise. I think that might, in the end, help you a bit. So enough of that. Back to Amanda, and I wanted to ask you, or you tell us, sorry, about your initial diagnosis. What was your thought process through all that?
Well, it was scary. There's few things in life that are as terrifying as you have cancer. It's facing your own mortality. Like, we all know that someday we're all gonna die. It's a part of life. But to hear that when you have 2 young kids is really hard. It's a hard pill to swallow. To have to tell your family that that's what you're going through is terrifying. And then in our situation, you couple that with the fact that the only experience with cancer on either side of our families was your dad. And your dad passed in May, and then I was diagnosed in January. So 7 months after your dad passed, we have to deliver the news to our kids that their mom has cancer. So their first and immediate thought was, my mom's going to die.
Yeah, I remember that. And I remember both of them actually just falling their face off. And not only that, we'll go a little bit further. It's the only thing that they knew with hospices was death, because your mom during COVID got taken to the hospital, and
they never saw her again.
So that was their fear, is like, because once, even though you were just going for surgery, right, they heard the word hospital, and right there it was just, is mom gonna die? Are we not gonna have mom? And it is heartbreaking. It's tough.
Yeah. And
I can't imagine how you felt. I know how I felt, and I'm just thankful that for the most part we have got through this. You're a strong woman. I love you, and let's keep on going, Glenn. So after your diagnosis, Why church? What made you want to visit church?
I think no matter what you believe, it could be any religion, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be the same God that I have. Whatever you believe is there's something bigger than you. And I think to some extent every person has felt that you're not the be all end all, that there is something, a higher power of some sort that's calling the shots, pulling the strings, however you want to say that. And when you're faced with a situation like that, like cancer, where you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know what the next steps are, even when they tell you what the next steps are, you don't know what they are.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I learned through this experience, is that they tell you one thing and they don't mean it.
No.
And they try to keep you, and I understand the reason for this, but I still hate the practice of it. They try to keep your thoughts positive. They try to keep some kind of positive spin on it. There is nothing positive about it. And I wish they would have just been honest from the beginning. And they weren't honest from the beginning. There was always this hope that they held, like they kind of held it over you.
Yeah.
And they made you feel like this was not going to be as severe as it was. And let me tell you, absolutely everything they told us was 360 degrees different than what we experienced.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have been better prepared for that. But I think that's where a lot of wanting to be a part of the church came from, was just that there was, in those days, there was nothing to look forward to.
No.
Getting up in the morning was painful.
Oh, I remember.
Just trying to function in a day. Yeah. There was no function some days. And not working, not having anything really to do made it worse, because there was nothing to make you want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
And so I think having something to look forward to and a reason to get out of bed and to leave the house and to put something on that wasn't pajamas was a big part of it. But yeah, I think for...
Yeah, and I think just to go a little bit further into that is we had already experienced going to church after my dad's funeral was at church, and you were talking about how Pastor Walker and the other people at Truth Church that take care of all that opened the doors for...
Yeah, they were just very accepting. And I mean, your mom and dad hadn't been back at the church for very long, because your dad was running his own church. So they had recently gone back because he was too sick to run his own, so they were going back again. But they hadn't been back very long.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say maybe 6 months to a year.
Yeah, I don't know.
But when he was sick, I saw how they all kind of rallied around your mom and supported your mom and supported your dad through that. And like the offer was always extended to us as well.
Yeah.
But we weren't in a place that we wanted to go.
No. And then we did go just to support my mom. We went to a few services after.
Yeah.
And the one thing that you have and I have is after one of those Spanish services, we went downstairs because there was
a dinner or lunch or something.
Meal prepared, and Pastor Walker came down and just grabbed a chair and sat down and pretty much said, "Oh, I want to know about you.
Yeah.
Tell me about yourself."
Yeah.
Right, and it was just it threw me off because
that was the day you guys were talking about baseball.
Yes.
And he said, "I'll call you coach if you call me pastor."
That's right.
Yeah.
And then I never thought about it. Never.
Yeah.
Right after that, it was like, okay, my mom has her friends have rallied around her. She can keep going and whatnot. And but yeah, just another thing I want to throw in there about not just Truth Church, but once you found out your diagnosis and we knew and that you were due, and then you started your chemo, I want to just reach out and say that Brother Roberto and Sister Cecilia have been a huge part as well, as why I think you sought to go to church as well. We started to go to their Friday night get-togethers, and they were just so welcoming to you. Just the big hugs and just, I'm happy you're here. And so I want to say thank you to Brother Roberto and Sister Cecilia for always extending their hand to my family. Be it when my dad was sick, and with my mom when my dad passed, and when her mom passed the day after. I just want to say thank you guys. But moving on here, there's one of the messages that I got. One of the messages on the feedback that I got was that they wanted the way that you've changed, like not just your outward appearance. Well, you lost your hair, but
not by choice.
The way you've changed, not just your outward appearance, but the way you've been dressing, the way you've always been, you've always helped. You've always tried to help people, and you've always been pretty happy. You've always been that person you'd give the shirt off your back. But just I guess what the message said, that there was a glow about you, just especially when they see you walk into church, and you look forward to going to every service, and I love it. I do love it, and to me it's a different you as well, because that wasn't you before, and you're involved. We're involved. What would you say to someone that is looking to join or to start going to church?
You have to find something that you're comfortable with. You have to find something that you relate to, that you feel it's ultimately it's comfort. You have to find something that you're comfortable with, because if you're not comfortable where you are, it doesn't matter what the message is, you're never going to receive it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Somebody could tell you that the sky was purple, and if you weren't comfortable there, you wouldn't listen. You wouldn't pay attention. It wouldn't matter. The message doesn't matter if you feel uncomfortable where you're sitting. Yeah, well.
But yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Is that not only comfort helps, but I think the preaching, the worship, I think that has to do a lot with it too.
Well, I think that's part of the comfort part of it, right? Like the.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean. Yeah.
So the reason that I felt comfortable going there in part was because of the meetings that we had with Pastor Walker. I felt that he was human, and that being human was okay.
Mm.
I didn't feel like he was better than I was when I was there. Mistakes. I didn't feel like I was being judged by him when I was there. I still don't. And I say that, like that sounded like I do now. I don't. I don't feel like, it feels like you're okay to be there, and you're okay to make mistakes. That is a place to learn and to grow from your mistakes.
Yes. Just don't keep making the same ones.
Well, no, then it's not. Then you're not growing. Then you're not learning. Then you're just going through the motions. But I feel like it's a place that you're okay to go to be yourself. You don't have to be something other than what you are, and there's no expectation on you of your past. Your past is your past, and that's been okay. He doesn't want to see you leave the same way you came, but you're okay to come as you are. And I think that was the biggest thing, is that he makes it okay for you to be human and to be fallible and to make mistakes, and it's okay.
And then when the pastor is like that, when the leader is like that, then the congregation starts to be like that. Yeah. And that's what I love about the congregation at Truth Church, is a lot of them have known me since I was 2-3, when I was a kid, like before kindergarten and all that. And I went to the school there, and there's still some teachers that some of the sisters there are were my teachers. But yeah, it's so great to feel that
extended family.
Yeah,
like it's more of an extended family. Yeah.
So, what is the one thing, or if you could put it in one word, of going to church?
Well, it's not just one thing. I think ultimately there's a comfort and a peace there, right? So you can go there, and I saw it with you first. Like, I didn't see it with myself first. Yeah. But I would see, and you were fighting me on wanting to go to church, and you weren't wanting to go, and you said that, and I would watch you go into service with the weight of the world on your shoulders. Everything that we were going through, work, life, the kids, like, it's funny because I was talking to Naya this morning, and I said, when we were kids, all we wanted to do was be adults. Whoever said that being an adult was fun, like, they're wrong. There's so much to being an adult that just is not great. And I look back to when I was a kid, and man, things were so much easier. And like, being an adult, there's so much that you have to, there's so many burdens, there's so much heavy stuff that you have to carry and you have to take with you. And I noticed it at first with you, like, we'd go to church and you'd come in with all of this stuff and all of this weight and this burden, and you just leave it there. And you'd walk out so much lighter and like almost relieved, like you were able to breathe again. And like, well, it doesn't last long. Like, I think it took the last church service that we went to, I think was the time that we drove home. I needed to go back and leave it all there again. But you leave it there and you get that reprieve from that weight.
Yeah. Last week was one of those weeks. But you know what? That service on Sunday afternoon, I feel that it was just what we needed. It was for us. It just pretty much everything that we had that week, for me at least, like all that just came crumbling down, and all that we had to do and everything. That Sunday service with the special speaker, I felt so positive. I felt like
your faith was restored a little
bit. Absolutely.
Because I wasn't quite there, but
I know, but it's sometimes it's tough, but that's why now we have our faith, and we got to keep pushing through, honey. Right? So I'm going to let you do the plugs for
the plugs.
I don't know what it's called. What is it called?
What am I plugging?
For the church we attend. Tell them where it is. Tell them all the info.
So the church that we attend is called Truth Church.
Of Calgary.
It's in Calgary. It's 615 North Mount Drive, Northwest. Services are Wednesdays at 7:30, Sundays at 10 a.m. and 1. There's other fellowship things that happen within there as well. But if you don't feel comfortable being there in person and you just want to see what it's all about, all of our services are live streamed, so we'd welcome you to join us online from the comfort of your home, and that's at truthchurch.com. And you could also download the app from the iTunes store or whatever it's called, Apple Store, I don't know. And whatever the Android one is, I don't know what it is either. But you can download the app, you can watch through there. And that also has a link to the calendar events that are going on at the church. If you've got kids and family, there's also the youth events that are available on there as well. So go ahead, check it out. And if you do want to come and join us in person, we'd love to see you.
Wow, that was everything. You covered the whole 9 yards. But thank you.
Sometimes I'm good at things.
So I want to say thank you all to that watched and that listened. I appreciate it. We would love some feedback. If you could give us some feedback, tell us your likes, your dislikes, your constructive criticism. That would be very much appreciated.
And don't worry, next week I'll be back behind the camera.
I'm hoping that she's not. We can put her on camera. I'm really enjoying this stuff. But we'll see. I just want to say to those that are struggling, that don't have anywhere to turn to, just now's the time. Now's the time to turn to God. Now's the time to put all your burdens on Him. Now's the time to reach out to Him. If you're one of those that have left God and have fallen by the wayside, it's now is the time as well for you, and you know what to do. Just reach out to Him, and He said He'd always be there for you. He'd never leave you nor forsake you. And if there's anyone that needs to talk, to chat, I'm here. You can reach out to me on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, and I'll do my best. Love you guys. I'm praying for you, and stay blessed. Thanks for being on, baby. Have a good day.